Live on stage. The sound
of Orlando.
So, is they ready?
Yes.
The sound
of Orlando.
Yo, what's going on, party people? Welcome back. It's been a crazy weekend. A lot of stuff going on, a lot of stuff happening, man. Glad to be back on the Soul Show. This is your boy, Ro, man. So glad to be back for another week to finish out this January strong, man. We got so many great people coming on the show this week. And, before we even get started, I never thought that I would be doing a show like this. This wasn't necessarily what I chose to do or what I even thought that I would be, capable of doing. But when God sets things on your lap, sometimes you just got to go with it. And this is one of those things in which he set into my lap, and things are starting to come together. And I feel blessed that I'm able to do what I'm doing for my city of Orlando, because Lord knows our city needs a voice. It needs a platform, a neutral ground in which all of our people could come on here and talk about their contribution to the city beautiful, which I believe is, it's my hometown, and it is the city beautiful. It's so many beautiful people here, so many talented artists, so many people that are contributing to this thing we call hip hop and this thing we call art. So kudos to my city. Kudos to everybody watching all over the world. You know what I mean? Like my man, shout out to my man, Ricky B, Ricky. He's been doing a lot of the sound construction, a lot of the videos, the trailers that you see after the shows. My man Rick has been putting it down, man, and shout outs to you, man. You didn't have to do it, but you are doing it, so kudos to you. Our sponsors for this evening are as follows. If you don't know about my man, George, a.k.a. Grand Ultimate George, a.k.a. Mr. Manhattan George, my man, he is throwing down some really good masks that are fashionable and unique. So if you know anything about having to wear masks, please hit up my man at tomsons.com. Incredible human being, an incredible fashion. This man is putting it down. Hit that website up. Go get you some masks that ain't nobody got down here, man. And my man, Jesse Jazz, need printing? Please hit this man up if you need flyers or any kind of promo for tax services or anything in general that you need for graphic work. Please hit up my man Jesse Jazz, legend in the city, and he's continuing to do legendary work. So shout out to Jesse Jazz and 5-Star Graphics. Now, with all of that said, like I said, there's a lot going on. It's a Monday. We're ending this month off. January flew by, and we're about to step into a whole nother month, Black History Month. So I'm looking forward to that. But we got some great guests coming on. And this next guest coming on, let me tell you something, man. When I talk about the legends in Orlando, I cannot leave this brother out, man. This brother has been a part of a cohesive unit that has been putting stuff down here from day one. I've had the pleasure of performing with this brother many years, and, from where I seen him start to where I see him now, I mean, he literally jumped from Earth to Jupiter to Saturn. Like he's playing a different game when it comes to the art of producing. He's done stuff, performed with Lauryn Hill, done stuff with some of your favorite artists. He's also a part of one of the legendary groups in Orlando called Soliloquy of Sound. Shout out to my man Swanberger. Shout out to my man, my peoples. He's worked with Beef Wellington, Alex. I mean, you name it. He's worked with so many people. It's just amazing. And this brother still calls Orlando his home. and I'm honored to have him on tonight, man. So, without any further ado, let's bring on my man, the super producer, duo, MPC duo, my man, Divinci. Let's bring him on tonight, man. What's good?
Yo, what's up?
Oh my God, Mr. Ableton, Mr. Sound Effect, Mr. Transformer, Mr. Go Crazy on the Stage with Machines, Mr. Electricity, Mr. Green. Go up there and just turn everything green with frequency, man. Dude, you've blown my mind from day one, but I mean the stuff that you're doing now, I mean, I don't even have the language to discuss, but we're gonna try to work it out some way, somehow.
Appreciate the intro. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Hey, bro, I mean, like I said, bro, we doing this show for real about our city, and we're trying to tell the entire story. And I can't tell that story if you're not on the show. Like you're part of that story. This is the whole point of the sound of Orlando. You're a part of that sound of Orlando, bro, and it's dope.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you very much.
Welcome, Mr. Divinci, to the show. Now, for those who, by some chance, landed on Venus or Mercury and didn't land on Earth yet, describe some of your background, nationality even. Talk about where your origins are and how did you find hip-hop in the beginning?
My father's Filipino. My mother is a mix of European. I was born in a small town called Wilmelsdorf in Pennsylvania. I came down to Orlando to go to school when I was 18. When I just turned 18. I had already been doing hip hop since I was 14, and I was always really into production. I was always really into what was going on behind the scenes. I rapped first because that's what you can do for free.
Right. Yo, bro, you just dropped some bombs, and that's nothing to take away from MCing, but you just said a mouthful to Orlando and beyond. You want to get into hip hop? Cheapest thing you can do to get into hip hop is rap. Everything else costs money.
Well,
continue, my brother.
You could dance, and I dance.
Oh yeah, dance. But you still need you need clothes.
Yeah.
You need clothes.
You gotta look fresh.
You gotta look fresh. The rhyming, you don't even gotta look. The grimier you look, the better sometimes.
You gotta have a proper kitchen floor for that too. So technically, it does cost money.
Talk about it.
Right. So, I was producing my group's records when I was like 14, 15.
On what?
Actually, can you see? Yeah, you can see right here. See that right there? That's my 4-track.
Okay.
Right there.
What kind of 4-track is that?
It's a Tascam. Here. Hold on.
Shout out to anybody that has used a Tascam.
It's a Tascam Porta Studio 424.
Man, if you didn't have that at least once, and I had that 4-track at least once. I had the black one, and then I had the Porta Studio when it came out. And that little thing right there was the studio, man, back in the days, man, if you knew what you was doing.
Yeah, man. The way I got this actually was I had a friend of the family. I had a really good friend, my personal friend. His name's Ryan. His brother was a friend of the family and me. His name's Jason, and he had this. He was into rock music, and he needed a car, and we were getting rid of our old car. My family was. So as part of the deal, like he gave us this for me, and we gave him the car. My parents gave him the car. So, so before that, I was working on a karaoke machine and recording all my homies. I was the youngest of the crew, always the youngest of the crew. I had a group called HARM, which stood for Hit and Run Mobsters.
Wow.
And we had another acronym for our album name, which was Hardcore and Raw Music. And we went to Philadelphia and recorded the first album there. And yeah, all that stuff was originally done on this guy right here. So
now, Orlando, come on. That was like one of those things that you seen at Discount Music right there on John Young Parkway. They had that in the stash over there. Discount Music right there on Bruton Boulevard and John Young Parkway right on the corner of I-4. And they used to have a gang of those. And I remember back in the days, like, you know, because a lot of people started with pause tapes in the producer game. And if you had your pause game right, them 4-tracks were like a super version of being able to do that. And like it took your game from one thing to another. And I remember Fostex. My boys had a Fostex 4-track, and that thing was insane. And a lot of people, you know, forget 4-tracks were like, it felt like you had an entire studio when you didn't, you know, back in those days.
I mean, the Beatles used that to record most of their stuff. You know, maybe not that particular model, but 4 tracks is really all you need. So all we needed at that point in time. And that's what I was doing prior. I was doing pause tapes using my sister's karaoke machine. And I also inherited a really dope CD player.
No, man, hold on. No, man. What year was this? What karaoke machine that they had out?
Man, I don't even remember the name of it. I remember
they had karaoke machines out back then, man.
The door wasn't even on it. I mean, karaoke's been a minute. Plus,
yeah, I remember.
So, I don't know. It had to have been 1993, 92, right?
Okay.
What am I? I was born in 82. I guess I'm 38 now, June 82. I think I'm 30. I'm pretty sure 38.
Shout out to anybody that does not remember their age.
Right.
That is important.
I had this really dope CD player too, and you could actually loop portions of the CD. Like you did an in point and an out point, it would loop it. And it was like all
that's dope.
Yeah, it's super dope. It was offbeat, like it wasn't like consistent, but I used to make instrumentals that way too. But yeah, that's how I started. I was a rapper, producer of that group, and worked with a few people all around the area, Reading, Pennsylvania, and you know, whoever rapped in Womelsdorf came to my house because it's a Womelsdorf. Put out an album. I crowdfunded.
Yeah, is this the famed city of The Office?
No, that's
Right.
What is that? I just remember Dunder Mifflin, but where is that? I forget. Somebody in the comments will mention it.
Right. Anybody knows the origin of The Office, the city in which The Office is talked about? That name, the city that he described, sounded exactly like something that would be in The Office.
No, homie. Super, super, super small. Like
right.
That where The Office took place is a lot bigger. Like mine's a small town. You could walk from one end to the other in like 15 minutes. Scranton. Somebody
Yes.
said Scranton, Pennsylvania.
How can we not know that? Isn't Biden from Scranton?
We're accessing the old hip hop 4-track portions of our minds, and that doesn't really
we don't
overlap.
record it over those parts too much, man.
Yeah, it doesn't really overlap with the office sections. But yeah, I did that. I came down here. Yeah, I came down here to go to school, and that's when I met Swam. One of a couple people actually like said, "Yo, you got to meet Swam. I think you guys would get along." And I got his number, called him up, and the first night I hung with him, he was recording drums with Anthony Cole, and we just like hung out while I think it was Sign One was recording Anthony Cole. Sign One and this cat Seabass were recording the Anthony Cole for an album that Swam was working on called Polyrhythmatician. And Swam and I hit it off. I was 18 years old. And man, the rest is history. We
What was that like coming from a small town in Pennsylvania and landing in Orlando at that time and in that year, in that moment? Because what year was that? Do you remember?
2000.
Right. Mm-hmm. It was 2000?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So 2000, if anybody in Orlando knows,
which is 21 years ago, by the way, if you didn't think of it.
The culture was pretty thick at that time in 2000. There was so much hip hop going on. You had Wall Street, where all the different styles of music were being played at. You had Sapphire Supper Club. You had, BMF. Talk about what that was like coming from Pennsylvania and seeing that for the first time.
I was just happy to be here. I was just happy to be in what I wanted to be in, right? Like growing up, my head was there already. So when my actual surroundings matched where my head was at, in a way, because my head was at it was in New York, right? Or even Philly, or I was in Philly, or the small city of Reading, which is like really dangerous, crazy place. But my head was in these places where it was happening, right? So to be in a place where more was happening than in Wilmersdorf was dope. It was really dope. And you also got to think it's not about necessarily location at that point, but also age. 18 years old, right? That's a very formative time. So everything's kind of magical. Everything's kind of new, especially when you are just being out on your own and all that, have your own place. So it's exactly what it sounds like. 18-year-old out on his own for the first time in a city, as opposed to Podunk.
Right. I know, growing up here, and let's even just fast forward to the year that you came here. Mm-hmm. It was a beautiful, eclectic place in Orlando in general. There was an excitement, an energy, a vibration that was going on down here that was literally second to none for a lot of other places that I've been to or frequented. It was just like you felt this energy in the city, like anybody could do anything. Yeah. And there was just this wave of originality from all sides of the city in 2000. It was just completely and utterly insane for music in Orlando.
You also got to think who my tour guide was, right? 18-year-old, new place, out on their own, city, tour guide is Swanberger.
Right. Right. Right.
So that alone, for anyone who knows Swam, especially at that time, like in the context of the year 2000 at Swam, you already kind of know colorful of an experience that was. He opened my eyes to a lot of different things, let alone any type of culture that was going on.
I knew Swam before I met you, and Swam was heavy with BMF and that particular vibe. And then one day we down at the Sapphire, we're talking hip hop stuff or something happened, and the next minute I see your ass, and I'm like, who the hell is this bub? And I'm like, I think the first time we really got exposed to you, I think we met prior to me seeing you perform and get on stage. But there was this energy that you brought to what was already kind of like in its own lane. You expanded on that. Like you were talking about clicking with Swam. Talk about how you were able to kind of manifest that and maybe tie in how you got your hands on machines now that weren't what you were normally using, i.e. the MPC.
Curious, just like to take a little pause. What do you think? I can't afford the perspective you had. You met me from outside of me around that time. I was very oblivious to what I looked like, to where I was going, and how I came.
Back then, and shout out to everybody that was in Orlando, Old Town Sound, and in that scene at that particular time. To me, it was kind of like we all kind of got used to, or were building up to, a certain way of how people are kind of rooted in their crews, right? Like we were just getting used to the who's who with who and this and that. And as things were expanding, and I see you show up on the scene, and it was just like, oh man, you just had this, electric vibe to you. And I'm looking at it from afar, to your point, and I'm like, what the hell are they got cooking? And it was just a curiosity that I was immediately moved by what you guys were cooking up before I heard it. And then once I heard it, I was like, God damn. Because I was heavy on the MPC at that time.
Sure.
And I started with the 60, Shaq let me use his, and that was my first introduction to it. But then I was sold from that point. Right. I bought my first 2000 and eventually the 2000 XL. And I started, let me not take it away. Little Coach Cheese, shout out to you. He started me out on the 3000. But I was never really able to take it home, where Shaq allowed me to take the 62 home. And I was able to just sit in that thing for a while. And I was just amazed at what could be done, but I wasn't even thinking on the level that you were thinking. And that like completely fascinated me when I first seen you on one of them. And then before I could even get used to that, you were on two of them. So it was just one mind-blowing moment after another. I'm like, who the hell is this guy? Man, where else Swam finding him?
It was cool because, I developed a lot of that in my bedroom when I was 15, 16 years old.
Yeah.
I was just making beats every day. I saved. I got a summer job in Wilmsdorf working at an old folks home, and that turned into like my main job. But all the money I used from that, my parents helped to make up the difference, and I bought an MPC 2000 the summer I turned 15. And I'd already had like drum machines and all these other things.
Right.
And I didn't know what I was doing. I was ignorant to what was going on. I didn't have the plug. There wasn't really, YouTube didn't exist and all these other things. So I just kind of experimented, and I used my ignorance paired with my imagination and created what I was doing, right? Like I'd hear stuff in hip hop and I'd be like, oh, they must be doing this with no kind of musical background, no kind of real idea of how it was being done. I made up these kind of grandiose processes that I later found out had nothing to do with what they were doing. But that's how I thought that's how you made music. So I did all these, because before that, I wanted to be a scientist and inventor, you know, ever since I was a little kid. So I was always thinking like, to me, it was like always like, all right, if I'm going to make music, I got to make a Rube Goldberg machine first that makes music. Right. So it was always like, you know, this is going to hit this, then that's going to make that happen. And then this is going to make that happen. There's always like, it was always heavy on process.
It was like what kids did, you know, like myself. I would break down a portable radio, like take it completely apart and put it back together to see what it does, or see if I could add another speaker to it, or, you know, and what you're describing is that same idea. Like you wanted to see how everything in that thing worked.
Right. And
reconstruct it.
That was the magic to me anyway, because when I heard hip hop, it wasn't like any other music I had heard. Every other music my ear could reverse engineer and I know exactly what it was. Oh, guitar, bass, drums. I know all that. Okay. Nothing really special, but hip hop was more of a magic trick. Like, how'd you do that? So like, I was just thinking like, man, how'd they do that? Maybe they, you know, like sampled a dog or something like that to make that sound. So that's what I would do. I'd sample animals, or I'd sample this, I'd do that. And again, it was like my ignorance paired with some sort of just imagination to get the thing done. And that's how all those processes came about. Even like me playing with my face or my feet, that was either started out as a joke or like, I wonder if I could do this. So by the time I came down here, I had already like refined a lot of those chops. And as creative as a person as Swam was, like we were just the perfect match. And he was the perfect match for me at a crucial time to encourage me to do more of that, because I didn't know any of that was special. Right. When the DJ Shadow issue of, I guess, Keyboard Magazine or something came out, and I started reading all his secret techniques, I was like, I've been doing all this since I was 14, 15. I was like, is this like, I thought this is how it was done. And I took it all for granted until Swam came around and he just held up a mirror to me and was like, yo, no, that is amazing. Do that. Bring that with you. Like, put that on stage, you know, because that was just stuff that was happening in the studio. So, you know,
and I love what you said right there. The nobody believes it. I always kind of like, you know, compare it to shout out to all my Looney Tune Bugs Bunny watchers. The Michigan Frog, and when Michigan Frog would do this dance, and you know, he'd be like, you know, you know, he'd do all this song and dance, and this old man found him in a lunchbox, and he's doing all this stuff for him, but when he goes to show it to everybody else, it's like, you know, nobody sees that. So to your point, Swam was like, right, like, I can't be the only one to see this frog dance.
Yeah,
I got to bring this out to everyone.
Yep. And he was
that something that you felt comfortable doing? Because I mean, people struggle with being able to perform, especially on stage, if it is kind of like revolutionary, if you will.
I never had issues taking what I did to the stage or doing. I was always like, for better or worse, I was center of attention guy. Right.
Gotcha. Good.
When I was in the earliest of elementary school, you know, I was one of the only brown kids in my school. And like, I got attention that way. Right. And negative attention. And then we moved, but like, so I kind of had like that, you know, I could either Plus, it was martial arts. Like martial arts taught me a lot. That's the thing I learned first. So like what I learned from my father in martial arts is like, all right, you can fight this, you can run away for it, or you can redirect it. And I was redirecting and using that energetical attention, and just like I started being funny, right? I was class clown material and that type of thing.
Right.
And there's another part of study that I've always kind of been interested in, which is communication and how things come across and what my face looks like when I'm saying certain things, or, you know, that even like why I ask you, you know, how did I come across to you then? That's always been something that's been interesting to me.
Well, that's like asking me how do I feel about, you know, watching a cartoon. Like, I mean, you know, the perception is part of the performance, but, you know, I don't know, like, I think a lot of people have issues sometimes being able to look at something as a working art, like something that's being developed in real time in front of you, and then looking at your gestures or looking at who, you know, the faces you make, or to your point, and taking things personal from that. And to your point, why communication is so important, because, you know, as an artist, as a fellow artist, I thought that was just par for the course. I felt like, you know, when I seen you, I never felt like there was an aggressive or kind of, you know, screw y'all. I felt like this was a part of the performance art. This was a part of what you were drawing, so that when people come to you, these are the paintings in which you're showing, you know. And as an artist, you know, you're always doing a showing. You know, you know, rarely do you ever take a day off, because it's not that you take the cape off. What movie was that where he was talking about the Superman? No, that was Kill Bill, man, where he was talking about, Superman wasn't, you know, Clark Kent. Clark Kent was Superman. He was playing the role to be Clark Kent.
Yeah.
But his real existence was Superman. And so for a lot of my heroes, you guys represented those beings. Like this, that was you. And then when you needed to kind of interact in the world, then you became normal. But that wasn't
right. I'm
not normal. None of us are normal. We're not.
I've been driven by function, right? So like, what's my function at this point? Is it to listen? Is it to build off of what you're saying? Is it to show something? Is it to get open in front of you? What's the function right now? And even Saint Shasha says, you were quiet until someone made you laugh. I think that was directed at me. If that's you know, I could see that, and I could see that how that, you know, relates to me performing too, because my whole being is emoting at a point when I'm in performance, and it's just like, well, you know, am I going to do that all the time, or am I going to do that when it feels like that's what's there?
Right.
And so I was when I perform, it's probably when I'm the least conscious of myself.
Right.
So I at least that's the goal. I want to lose myself.
Right. Right.
You know?
Right.
I can't. Being self-conscious means being in my head, and the whole practice of performing to me is getting out of it and being in my body. So I think I kind of had a knowledge of that before I knew it. You know, I think my body knew that prior, and I owe a lot to martial arts, because my father's teaching was always about, in martial arts, the flow is what we're seeking, and that was the holy grail to us, the quest to find the flow. And in martial arts, the flow meant you know, it hits without even thinking, or you move without even thinking. And when I would be on stage, I'd find the most pure version of that. Right. So it was really helpful to have someone who lived the flow, like Swam, be my personal cheerleader and literally walk me around town and be like, look, this is the 18-year-old prodigy. This is the man. This is the man. This is the man. Right. Even when I was 19, still saying this is the 18-year-old prodigy, you know, he was so supportive of me. And I think that's where I was really blessed, because like in the point in time where I was just really happening upon what I think was the sauce for me, he was right there to say, oh, I see it. I'm going to nurture and uplift that before it even has a chance to be quelled or pushed down. And in that way, you know, I owe him so much for that. And
how important is that? Like, I mean, you know,
I don't know, because I haven't had anything else. I don't know how important it is, but I can only imagine it's ultimately the main part. Like I can only imagine it's so crucial, especially when you consider people who have been told to quiet down or to turn down their uniqueness, right? Which again, I've more often than not, except for when I was called like the N-word in school, right? Like, but even then, when that happened, I was lucky to go to this school because I came home and I was crying. I remember crying to my mom, like, they're calling me this at school. And first of all, I'm Filipino. Like, they don't even have their racial slurs right. But it was that off. Like, all the minorities were that, you know. So
hey, let me clue you in on something.
Yeah.
We're still
yeah.
nothing has changed.
Well, no. You gotta give proper staging to the right minorities. I mean, I was just seeing this thing with Danny Lay.
Like, get over here, you guys get over there.
Yeah. You saw the thing with Danny Lay. She came out with a song called Yellowbone. She's not even, you know, she's not even African American at all. So like, she's shit. So like, I you know, there's so many rules to that these days. But back then, just little kids don't know any better, and boom, that. Regardless, I was outcast, and that's why my best friend was black, because it was just him and me in the school. Like, all right, we'll band together. So I always had like that connection there. And then
a shout out to all my Filipinos. My son-in-law, my future son-in-law, he's Filipino.
I didn't grow up around any Filipinos, so that was like. That was the other thing coming down to Orlando. I was like, oh, other Filipinos. Wow.
right. And for what you're saying, it's like I said, it's amazing because, and I don't want to gloss over that, because a part of the story of our city too, which sort of kind of gets cheapened. I wouldn't say completely devalued, but you touched on it. I think you would do great by just expanding on it just a little bit more, which is the power of mutual confidence and allowing what you were saying about not turning down. It actually creates. It actually is talking about this entire society right now that we're kind of navigating through in real time, which, you know, for a lot of people for years, they've been told in one way or another to turn that shit down.
Yeah, absolutely. You know,
one of my first experiences,
or it's been turned down for them.
Right. One of my first experiences in music, you know, and I love my mom, but I'm just using her as an example. There was an old saying back in the days, turn that jungle music down. Because I was listening to that, you know, I wanted to listen to all the hip hop and turn everything up.
Yeah.
And, you you know, for a lot of people that came from a generation in which we're, you know, by nature, youth is loud,
Right.
uniqueness is loud, because you don't walk in like normal people. You're not normal. It's not to normalize you, is to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
To not be loud is ridiculous. But we as a society tended, you know, there's a certain loud that's ridiculous. And I'm when I say that, I'm talking about like a flashy loud, like
Sure.
an arrogant, I got more money than you loud. And then there's just a loud that, you know, it's a noise loud. It's a Public Enemy, welcome to the Terror Dome loud. Like you hear it as you would the trumpets in biblical sense. Like they're just, this is what that is, and how important it is to have people around you who can accept that frequency and not be the ones to tell you to turn that down. And that was so important for your development, like you're describing. And it is important for a lot of people's development.
Yeah.
Everyone who is out there trying to find themselves through their noise, through their loudness. How do you become who you're supposed to be? And where do you go to be louder if the world as a majority tends to tell you to turn that shit down? And when you find people like a Swanberger in a foreign land, which you're just coming to that place, and he sees what you're doing, and instead of trying to conform you to what is going on down here, he tells you, turn that shit up.
Yeah.
That is completely amazing.
It's fantastic, and it's so, it works in concert with so many amazing moments in my life. And I think about that first school that I went to that I got, you know, outcast, and, you know, coming home to my mom and crying and telling her, I don't know what they're calling me, but they don't like me, you know, and then her explaining to me, you know, what that meant. And then this, I think, is, you know, one of the most crucial things to ever happen in my life. And I don't really have a control for this except other people that didn't have this. Right. But what happened in my life, this particular school I went to, there was a guidance counselor, and he was running a program that took all the outcast kids and took them out of class every day or a few times a week or something. And he said, all right, you guys come with me. And then we would like have our own little class. And he would share stories about how being different was good. Right.
Right.
And, you know, that if I didn't have that as a reaction to this very early, you know, experience, this learning experience, if I didn't learn in that learning experience, man, I wouldn't have tuned to the frequency to be able to intercept a swam, right? Because that energy took me throughout every year up until I met Swam and beyond. Right. You know, I was always a dude in school who was like friends with the kids who thought they were skinheads and the kids from the city, you know, and they would hang out with each other, you know, black kids hanging out with skinheads, hanging out with Asians, hanging out with white people, whatever, because they were hanging out with me. Right. And when I met Swam, he was telling me he like most of his school years, he would wear nothing but white and black, you know, to make a statement. Right. And so like I already had some practice before Swam came into the picture, but at a pinnacle point, I got that. And then at another pinnacle point, when I'm 18, I got that again with Swam. Right. And it really helped. And defined a lot of what I do now, right? Like what I teach in my Studio Sensei program, I teach methods of creative wellness, but a big pillar of that teaching is intuitive literacy. And what intuitive literacy is something I describe as the ability to accurately read and interpret what your intuitive voice is telling you. And this has a lot to do with noise, because there's a lot of people who aren't shown how to discern the voice that's coming from here, the one that's always right, the most important voice you could listen to. They're not taught how to recognize, discern, or discern it from the rest of the noise going on. And that's really the main issue. It's not even so much that you're being told to turn down alone, but that plus everything else is so loud, right? So how are you supposed to know in all of this which one of these is yours if everything is, turned up in our world? How are you supposed to say, oh, I'm track 3, right? Oh, this is my voice, unless you learn how to be like, no, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. Okay, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. And learning how to be like, that's where it is. How do you even know what to turn up, right? As opposed to just turning things up, because it's easy to turn up, right? But it's not so easy to know that the thing that you're turning up is the thing that is you, the thing that's speaking to you from a true place.
And I love what you just said there, because you compared that to the art of engineering,
right?
Which is, the ability to take all of this noise, this melody, this low frequency, and find some sort of balance within it all.
Yeah.
And some engineers will tell you, turn everything up at first,
mm-hmm.
and then bring everything down as you do it. And then you have some engineers that are the reverse. They say, turn everything down, just turn it all off, mm-hmm. and then slowly start to raise things up. And, if that's not kind of like this, the motto of life, I don't know what is, because
certainly one of them. For sure.
The art of blending your life sometimes leaves something like I'm pretty sure you've dealt with it. Shout out to all my engineers, shout out to all my producers out there. I'm sure, you got this track right where you want it, and you're like, man, it sounds awesome. But there's this one track that no matter what you do, it just pokes out in an absurd, sometimes obscene way. And you almost have to kind of take it out or take something else out for it to have its space. To carve, you have to take some, it can't blend with these frequencies.
Right.
They're kind of mashing each other up. So now you have to do the art of muting.
Yeah, you got to create space.
Right. And for when we're talking about life, that is so important, because it's probably one of the most difficult tasks you can have sometimes in life, learning what to mute and not mute.
Mm-hmm.
Because it doesn't mean that section is wrong or that sound is wrong. It just means something's got to go.
The blend ain't right. Right.
Something's got to go for it to have its space.
About that is, that's very prevalent in our world.
Yeah.
And what's funny about that is now you have a situation where everyone's forced to isolate. And I'm not just talking about isolating, but
we're all on solo tracks.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's on solo right now, isolating our own tracks. And what a fantastic opportunity.
Yes.
To do so. And I'm not saying that it's all fantastic. It's always at least both good and bad. But the part that is fantastic and useful here is the opportunity when we're being forced to isolate our individual track to get to know what's on that bitch. You know?
Right.
So when the rest of the world
know.
does come back into the mix, we know where the focal point is.
Right. How did we all become, in a proverbial way, producers of our own lives? Because for a lot of what we're talking about, because I think music is relative to life,
sure,
and to light, and you represent one of those beings out here that has given a soundtrack to our city in a real way. There's people that are behind you that have never left. Anything you guys do, you are the soundtrack to their lives. As you grow, they grow. Talk about what that is when we're talking about the evolution of you, Divinci, and describe how that evolution of you to be the producer and the being that you are in relative to the people that support you and love you. Has it been an easy thing when we're talking about those changes? And because you see it in society, if you're not doing the same shit you were doing in 1990, people kind of walk away. Oh no, they need to go back. I had Billy Danz on from MOP, and he was talking about the same thing, like this idea or notion that people can't evolve. And if they evolve, they somehow leave you out of the picture. And especially when it comes to our special thing that we call hip hop music and the culture of hip hop, sometimes they turn a frown to the evolution of you. Talk about how that process has been over the years as you've grown in music, and how do you see that playing out for you?
You touch on a couple things. I'll try to remark on all the things, but you might need to GPS me back to the point.
Okay, you good, brother.
Yeah. So I laugh because, when we were really doing our thing, damn near every day in Orlando before we really started touring the rest of the world and things like that. I don't know if you were privy to this or not, but we didn't fit in a way, we were definitely looked at like.
Stop right there. That is breaking news for everyone in Orlando. Breaking news.
Breaking news never stops.
Turn this motherfucking sound up, man. Blast this is trying to hold this up.
We were misfits. Talk about it, my brother.
We would do a show, and some homies would come up and be like, blah blah blah, talking about this, and I'd be like, yeah, and hip hop would come up or something like that, and they'd be like, yeah, but you're not really hip hop though, and I'm just like, I don't know what else to call this. Again, hip hop was the only reason I attached to the music, because music didn't really interest me prior to that.
Right.
Until hip hop showed me that it could be more than music. And again, hip hop was, when I got into hip hop, it was very much about turning up everyone's unique voice and being celebratory about one's unique voice.
Right.
And that was very in line with my whole ethos as, a person, a martial artist, inventor, whatever,
Right.
So it just really was supported. So like when people would say that, of course I'd be, especially back then, offended and be like, what? Like, I'm investing back into this and you're putting it in the wrong stock, like I'm not putting all my money into whatever you think this is, EDM or whatever, I'm putting it into what paid me here. So like for people to not recognize that at a point, it was just like, it was tired. It was just like a tired point to bring up. And you know, the rest of the world, that part of the world eventually caught up. That's how it feels now. Like, you know, when I started, there weren't people, there were like a handful, meaning up to 5 people I knew of that were finger drumming, right?
Right.
That were doing this, that were, you
know,
playing
Talk
drum.
your shit, Divinci. Talk your shit. Continue, my brother.
And, you know, to be as part of that pioneering wave, right? And then now to like look around and it's completely a thing, you know?
Right. They got Facebook games that you can finger drum and, you know, really?
It makes me feel 2 things. It makes me feel like, oh, cool. Like now, and like, I feel seen, but it also makes me look around and be like, I don't feel seen. Right. You know, it's really easy to be when it was just like 3 people, and I was, you know, and but you know, the majority of the feeling though is like, I'm glad, right? I'm glad that these platforms and this culture exists, and I'm glad that I'm still here. You know, at the same time, the way that I've evolved personally is where my focus is. Maybe not so much saying it that way. I think how I service my focus has evolved, because my focus is still the same, but how I do it is, you know, there's a lot more like one-on-one work I do with people. Music is more like a way to bring people's attention to that in a very literal way, and trying to educate and trying to like create courses and things that enhance intuitive literacy and all these things that I got from music, and that I was also trying to, you know, promote through music. But now I'm just like also promoting it directly, because there's so many ways for there's so many available platforms to do that now.
Did you ever think you'd be a teacher? Professor? Instructor?
I never really gave it thought, but it kind of, it didn't surprise me. The thing that there were a couple key moments where people would point it out and be like, you got something here, right? And it's so like I think the first, I've always been the guy that people ask advice for something, whether it's technical, where to go eat. You know, I've mediated a lot of like conflicts throughout my life, like unprofessionally and professionally, done like relationship counseling, unofficially and officially actually too. And, but the first like real teaching gig I had was teaching martial arts. And that was a really interesting time, because that was a time where I was kind of like, not going crazy, but like reaching a threshold of like, I can't take anymore. Right. And I was just like sitting in front of my computer working all day on our second album to be released on Anti Records, and just, you know, trying to, you know, be the middleman between the label and the group and everything. It was just like, it was too much. And I kind of naturally got pulled into needing to do something else. I started teaching martial arts, Filipino martial arts, in my backyard. And the funny thing, my dad was stationed in, I don't remember if it was Iraq or Afghanistan at that time. I forget. But he actually started teaching the fellow soldiers over there at the same time. Like I found out later, he wrote me a letter, you know, and since he was my teacher, it was cool that I like had that like kindred parallel moment. And when that started happening, I was like, oh, like it made so many things click in my life. And fast forward a couple years later, I was actually teaching Miss Lauren Hill stuff about using Ableton, using Pro Tools, all these other things, right? And because I've been working with her for this year, it'll be 10 years, and
but stop it. But just
sorry,
just stop. Just stop. You're not. Don't even do that. There's no way in hell you can say. You're just gonna say that, like, yeah, I'm just sitting back, having a beer with Lauren Hill, and all of a sudden she's talking about Pro Tools. No, did you ever think in a million years you would be sitting with Lauren Hill discussing Pro Tools? What are we talking about here?
No, so that was an interesting. So the first summer, it was 2011. So like this year is going to be 10 years working with her. And the first summer that I went up there to start working with them, man, it was amazing. That fall, we were remaking the Miseducation of Lauren Hill album.
Remaking it
so that we had like some backing tracks if people had to leave, like it was for the Rock the Bells tour where she like re-performed that album. We're like reimagining the album, but we were starting from like remaking it so that we had all the elements that we needed and we could rehearse it that way.
Right.
So I remember having my MPC there and like remaking Lost Ones. Sampling.
Yes.
Sampling the drums from Lost Ones so that I could, and this is something I did when Lost Ones came out. This was the weird moment, right? Because when Lost Ones came out, I those drums are open. So I sampled those, right? So when it came time to remake Lost Ones, I was like, all right, no, I've sampled those a few times. I just sampled them again. But in the middle of like remaking, I'm like, wait a second. Like what you just did. Like, hold up. Don't just skip over this. Don't just gloss over this.
Right.
You're remaking ones right now with Miss Hill for Miss Hill.
Right.
It was your idea to do this. Cause like, it was actually my idea to remake the album because like we were rehearsing ad nauseum and it was just like, if we just recorded this and I was like, there's this new program. It wasn't new. It was new to me. There's this new program, Ableton. If you get me Ableton, I can, put the whole show here and we can use this to rehearse and blah, blah, blah. So she bought me Ableton and, like we went into the studio for a few days and like in 3 days, it was nuts. We had remade the whole album.
Wow.
And that was crazy. That was such a full circle weird moment.
And,
right.
and I, like I said, I'm obviously being funny about glossing over. Shout out to Jesse Jazz.
No, but you're right too. You're right too.
You said you can't skip over.
No.
Hey, but the Miseducation album to this day is still being debated. Like that is a living document. Like. And the fact that you had to remake something that to this day is still being redefined in certain circles by certain people saying, okay, well, producers weren't being paid here or it's one of Lauryn Hill's greatest works and she hasn't been able to make an album since. Like all of these things, all the mumblings and all this extra noise that's around.
By the way, she hasn't put out an album. I has to say that she has made.
Right. As an artist, you know that.
Yeah.
Right. As an artist, you know that. There's shit in the stash for fucking the next 20 years, but no one's heard it.
Right.
And but to know that you've been a part of that living document that's still talked about to this day.
It's crazy to even be there, right?
Right.
To also retroactively somehow hop in a time machine and be there for that original work too. You know,
Right.
like it's the bus on being part of Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. I was 15 or, you know, something like that, 16.
Right.
Right. So to then like get the chance again to be a part of that is just like even crazier icing on the crazy cake.
And then you were on a late night show just to add glaze on the Krispy Kreme. You was on the Late Show. What was that like? Talk about that.
Oh man, that's a crazy story. There's a lot of craziness around that, right? I gotta first say, like, you know, Jesse Jazz said you can't skip on how we met and how things unfolded. Let me also say that Soliloquist is such a huge, not just Swam, right? But Alex, Tanya, and Swam, the fam, right? Like, oh, I owe so much to that. We all do. We all really do. Because even when I talk about the kismet of, you know, how our lives directed to, you know, meet at that similar place when Swam and I met, we all earned that. We all earned this amazing union. And we all honored it by really taking it seriously. You asked me a few minutes ago that I didn't answer. Was it easy? Absolutely not. It was not just not easy. The thing that made it difficult, it was completely unprecedented. We didn't have really any precedents around us for it. You know, like we were trying shit that we knew we hadn't seen before in communication and family. And it was hard, you know, like
and you guys were like inseparable. Like it seemed like we could not, once you got that groove going. I remember as, you know, as fellow artists representing the O as the few, I know motherfuckers used to tell me like, damn, bro, you and Malik always together, or you and Dredd always together, you and K-Ray's always together. Like we were inseparable, and you were inseparable. I couldn't see a slog fighting.
All four of us lived in the same house for 18 years. 18 years.
Say that one more time for the people in the back.
All me, Swam, Alex, Tanya, all lived together for 18 years straight.
Right.
While we're touring the world together, working and living together. You know, that education, I'm so blessed. I'm so blessed. And that's one of the reasons why I feel so charged to like teach, because I've gotten such a unique education. Like there's something that I learned that you can't learn in any school. And I want to build the school. We all kind of do in our way. And the beautiful thing about meeting Miss Hill is she was part of the same school.
Right.
It was like, wow, you went there too. You know, she's just such an amazing individual, and everything that led up to that point like prepared me also for that point as well. And we hit it off so well, we became really good friends. And then I just like kept getting different jobs there, you know, like I was just programmer at first for like, you know, playing drum machines live. Then I was like programmer in the studio. And then I was I was band director. Like I was band director, you know, kid who comes from Wilmsdorf who has no proper musical training, like band leader of like legendary musicians for Ms. Lauryn Hill. Right. All these things, right? It was just so many surreal moments. But the most amazing part about it is just like how much our energies hit it off, like how she was already family. And you know, the Tonight Show thing, I had already stopped going out on the road with them. You know, I was working more remotely with her at the time. And my wife was pregnant with Azumi, our 5-year-old daughter right now. And we went on a road trip. We like went up north. We went to see my family in Pennsylvania. We went to New York, went to Ithaca, New York to see her family. And when I was in Ithaca, we were in a couple of days, we were going to go to New York City. And I called up some homies from New York City and I was like, hey, how's it going? He's like, oh, you coming into town for the Tonight Show gig? And I was like, what? He's like, Miss Hill, she's doing the Tonight Show in 2 days. And I was like, wait a second. Hold on. Then I started texting Miss Hill, be like, hey, we're going to be in town. Miss Hill and I had a conversation. I was upset that like the month after I left, they did the David Letterman show. I was like, that's something my grandma could have saw.
Right,
and,
right.
You know, I was upset, man. Like the timing was just so crappy. Because I had done so much behind the scenes. There's so much I've done behind the scenes, homie, that I wasn't allowed to talk about for so long. Some of it I probably still can't. But man, there's so much. Like some of the biggest wins have to be quiet. And
and you're right. And I'm so glad you said that, because that segues into my next question. Do you feel like, because of the quietness when it came to a lot of the wins, that, and let me put this in context, Orlando for a lot of years was very divisive. Like you said earlier, we were certain people were classified as misfits because we performed at the Social or Kit Kat or Yab Yum or, God forbid, Go-Go, the Go Lounge, or Will's Pub, we performed there. And, there was a certain segment of Orlando that felt like this wasn't hip hop. And then there was this other segment that felt that was hip hop. Do you feel like that divisiveness contributed to some of what you're describing, in that there was some wins going on, but it couldn't be celebrated as a city? Part of the reason why I made this show was not because I just wanted to have a show. I don't give a fuck about having a show.
Right.
That's not my point in life, to have a show. I could care less about that. I felt like our city needed a show because nobody gives a fuck about our city.
Right.
And in the sense of talking about the history without some rosy colored glasses that only benefit the people that are telling the story. Like, they're only going to talk about the people that they know. Like, they're only going to talk about the segment of Mills or the Orlando Weekly Group, but they're not going to talk about Pine Hills. Or the Pine Hills, when they tell a story about hip hop in Orlando, they're only going to talk about the West Side and leave the East Side and downtown out of it. And I feel like in a lot of ways, we all tend to slight one another. And I'm saying that general. I'm not saying that we are. I'm saying that as a city, it slighted a lot of people that made so many contributions, to your point, and weren't able to celebrate the wins as a collective. Like, we did this for the city. It was a win for the city. We won, and instead of it being just a win for you, that should have been a win for the city.
I think it was. People. I think it was, but man, you're opening a lot of can of worms. I will try to. No, it's fine. I love it. So here's the thing, right? When I'm talking about there's so many wings that I had to keep quiet, I'm talking about like NDAs.
I got you.
You know what I mean?
We're going in the airport.
We cannot talk about this.
No, you already know. I'm happy
words and bad taste too. So I was always right there next to me, like, talk about that shit.
Right.
I love him for it. I push the boundary of what I can talk about.
Yes.
But let me talk about the Orlando thing in a minute. But this kind of circles back to it. Okay, right. So the Tonight Show. I was like, hey, if you need any help, let me know. Blah, blah, blah. She was like, yeah, because we're trying to do playback on certain things and stuff like that. And maybe you can help set that up. And I was like, I'm coming tomorrow. So I went to Jersey, and I was like, I got there for the rehearsal. right? And I set up. And by the end of the rehearsal, she's talking to the manager and she's like, okay. And by the way, she had a whole orchestra, a whole ass orchestra, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And the whole ass band, right? All jammed into that. And the Tonight Show is a small stage, right? There was a lot of people. And she talked to, after when we finished late, we finished the thing, and she talked to the manager. She's like, okay, yeah, this, that, the other thing, blah, blah, blah. Make sure Divinci has a place on stage and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, and then the manager was like, we're already over, we can't do that. He's got to sign union papers and he's got to get on the, blah, 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 like all this paperwork and blah, blah, blah. She's like, just, I want Divinci there. I want him there. Get him there. Right.
Right.
And I was just like, I'll be there, but inside, I was like, yeah. Fight for me. So we got there the next day and they were building me a desk, a table. They were building me one on the Tonight Show floor. And
you hear that, Orlando? They built him a desk. Continue, my brother.
I didn't just get a seat at the table. I got the table.
We got the table, son. We got the table, son.
Made, baby. So they're building it when I walk in. And, hanging out backstage, the Roots and this, that, the other thing. The Roots are clowning my footwear, and I still didn't know, like, it still wasn't certain that I was going to do it. We did the first dress rehearsal and we did it. And by the time that I got off of the stage from dress rehearsal, they were like, okay, you're doing it. And here, sign this, sign this. At that point, I hit up Bao from Orlando Weekly. I hit up Swam and I said, release the carrier pigeons. Like, let everyone know. Right. I don't think I ever saw that much support from Orlando for me.
Right.
Ever. Like, my timeline was packed.
Right.
And it goes back to something my homie, he works with J. Cole. And he saw me, I think it was 2 years ago or something. I was playing the Hollywood Bowl. It was Miss Lauryn Hill and her and HER, and we were playing.
Let's go.
Yeah. Filipinos, baby.
Yes.
Filipina. What's up, Errol? What's up, everyone?
Errol's in the house, man.
So he told me after I got off stage, he was like, you don't even know. And this dude is like, he lives out in California and he's like in it. He's J. Cole's like right-hand man, like everything. He's like, you don't even know Divinci. Like, when I met you, I had no idea who you were. And then when I started seeing what you could do and what you do, I became such a fan. And he told me something that, like, I'll never forget, because he told me never to forget it. I actually have like a little reminder from in my to-do app that comes up every once in a while. And what he told me is, like, you don't understand, but like, everyone is just waiting for the opportunity to ride your DICK, right? And I didn't take that like cockiness or anything like that. Right. I took it like I just haven't created the opportunity for people to. I just haven't created the thing for people to hold up, right? And I remind myself about that because I still don't feel like I properly have. I feel like I have here and there, but I don't feel like I've really made the thing that allows people to grasp what I'm contributing or what I want to contribute. I think I've touched on it every once in a while, though, and I think when I played the Tonight Show, that was one of those times,
right?
When there was something that, people could actually be like, yo, this is a win for all of us. This is the homie. And, you know, people came out the woodwork. People came out the woodwork and really supported. And the reason I bring that up in the context of, you know, the question is not just because you asked about the Tonight Show,
Right.
but also because Orlando's always been a unique case because it's a city, but it's not.
It is.
Right.
It's a city within a city within another city, because there tends to be these worlds in which we all kind of interconnect, but we celebrate the obvious. We'll celebrate the magic. We'll celebrate the lions.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times we don't celebrate the artist. And when I say that, I'm not diminishing whatever shine that has been across the city, because that's obvious. What I am describing, though, is, there has been a divisiveness within the Orlando Weekly core of artists.
Can I stop there? I don't think it's divisiveness, and that's kind of what I'm getting at. It plays out as divisiveness. It has
the cover of it.
Right. It has the same effects of divisiveness, but I'm going to go back to what the homie Ron Gilmore told me backstage a couple years ago, and he said, "People are just waiting for the opportunity to ride your dick." That's what he said to me, right? And what I took from that is people are just waiting for the platform to stand on to shout about you. If the platform doesn't exist, how do they know where to stand? Right. And that's the thing that's interesting about this city and always has been. It definitely has culture because of the people that are here, but that's it. The people are there. That's the culture, but there's no platform for the culture. You can only think to stand on other people.
And I love what you just said, because that is the other side of that story, meaning there should be people that know your legend on the west side of town, or maybe the south side of town. There should be people that are cognizant of what the west side has done and the east side has done in the city, and to foment more unity for all of us, so that no longer, given the scale of where music is right now in general across the United States, just in general, the idea that we as a city can come together and celebrate our contributions across the city, meaning the Divincis, the Swans, the Disco City Boys, where, to your point, what in lieu of a platform, how do we get everyone that has done something special here in the city that may not have had the platinum records, but have pushed the culture forward? How do we get to what maybe Atlanta or LA has, and that they support their people at regardless to what? You from Atlanta? We got you. Now, I know there's some people that may not be getting shine in Atlanta. That's fine. That's not the point that we're making. We're making the point that at some point in the past 20 years, they made a decision as a city to circle their own, meaning they're wanting to put their city at the forefront. So
I think it happened before 20 years, though. I think.
Yeah, you're right. No, I'm paraphrasing years.
Yeah,
but just to make the point.
Plants don't show up out of nowhere. That soil's got to be right.
Right.
And the soil here is paved over. There's a platform for tourism here. Right. That's why people stand on that damn platform. That's why you'll see tourism here. My ultimate empathetic statement that I like to pose when things aren't going the way that I hope they do or would like them to is not thinking about the way things should be. because I don't like the word should, because it's not accurate. Should based on what? What? My question always goes back to why wouldn't it? Or why would it? Or why would they? Like, why would people know about me?
Right.
Why? You know, like, why would people know about this person or that person?
Right.
You know, and until that platform exists and gets serviced consistently over years,
Right.
no one will. It's just going to keep.
My belief is that if there's a radio station in Orlando that's playing hip hop, you guys deserve to be spun at the very crackhead minimum.
Crackhead minimum.
I mean, I got $5, man. Come on, man.
I'm such a pragmatist too. Like, I even look at it
right at the crackhead minimum. One time on local radio as one thing, like one time in local media here, so that people, even if it's an instrumental of what you guys have done, but just to show solidarity with the culture of the city and the country, not just you. I'm saying this in general.
I think in the name of accuracy, like, you know, screw what's deserved. I think if you're just going to be accurate about moves that have been made, include certain people in that conversation. I'm being one of them. I'll say that. Yeah, absolutely. But I also look at this from that angle.
And he was about to make a great point too.
Yeah.
Come on, internet. No, you blanked out for a minute, so rewind and bring it right back. Bring that beat back. Come on.
Which part?
Whatever you started with after I shut up. I mean, after I stopped. How about that? Pick it.
I think in the name of I think just in the name of accuracy, it's important to mention certain people, me being one of them, Soliloquist being another, you know, and a whole bunch of people that I'm not going to start trying to name because I'm inevitably
because you're going to leave someone out, and that's not the point of the conversation. Right. So to name drop as much as it is to notice that where's our representation? Yeah,
screw what's deserved and just cut to what is accurate per the platform that you're trying to build.
Right.
If you're trying to talk about if you're trying to build a platform that mentions like moves being made and you know, in the hip hop community then there's certain people that it's accurate to discuss.
Just music.
Sure.
Just music.
Yeah, music. Then there's certain people that's accurate to include.
Just tell the whole story. That's fine. Just create a space in which, you know, a Disco City Boys can be played behind a Soliloquy of Sound, Prince Raheem, you know, a Clay D could be played amongst the 69 Boys, amongst the Missing Links, to give some context of what, you know, I would be remiss to think that I'd go into New York at any point and not hear at least one time, one station somewhere, they're oldies, whatever. I'm gonna hear Rakim. I'm gonna hear Mobb Deep. I'm gonna hear something in reference to New York, even if they play 23 hours of nonstop people from everywhere else. There's no way in the hell New York is not gonna play one record from New York. There's no way in hell. That doesn't make any sense.
No.
It means we're in foreign land. You know, like, that's all I'm trying to say. Like, there's so many vast contributions here that are not it's not about whether you deserve it or not. That's not the point. The point is to tell our story.
Right.
And just to give you know, to the tourist that visits here, an idea that Orlando has an identity that could be loved if someone heard it and didn't have to know you to hear it, right? Like, you didn't have to know. I don't have to know you when you've been on the Lakes. Come on, man, you've been on it tonight. That shit should be one time. I'm asking is for one time on the radio a day. It's like, okay, Mickey Mouse started out here in the 70s. Yeah, but dude started out here in the 2000s. You can't play him. That's too old. We're still playing Mickey. And that started in 70. So all I'm saying is that the idea or the concept that we as a city, a collective, should be kind of in agreement that we should be demanding more representation of our taxation. We're being taxed on so many levels. We're being asked to support everything that's outside of our own city. But where's the taxation that represents us? And that's what I'm demanding.
And I'm so in the artist bubble on that side of things. For a long time I was in a different bubble of like being an active member and trying to help create opportunities for that to happen. But I personally think that it requires maybe not less artists, but more people curating and more people creating platforms as opposed to more artists. You know what I mean?
You know what? You brought up a great point, because we do that for our museums. We do that for Spotify's. We do that for the things that supposedly now we really care about. So obviously, like to your point, there needs to be an idea. Maybe I don't know what that looks like. I'm not going to be like I'm the smartest guy in the room. I don't know what that looks like at the end of the day. But there needs to be a collective idea in which, people like the Jack the Rappers, the New Music Seminars, the collectives that said, okay, we're not going to wait for the industry to find us. They're going to have, we'll find them. We're going to do our thing. There has to be a collective idea to say, you know what? Okay, yeah, I'm not necessarily into what you're doing, but you represent our city and have that common ground as part of being from the city collective, and look at it from that aspect versus what we're doing. Because a lot of that is easy to say. He's doing trap music, so I ain't supporting that shit. Well, let's be honest, so I'm not supporting that shit.
Let's be really real about this as well. Like, we can have ideas all day, but do we have fucking money? Like, I love I work with the homie AC Wasuto. Him and I actually released 52 songs last year, one song every week. And he's an incredible artist, and he has his sights set on some really big things. And by the way, Swam's, we still live together. Swam's here at the house. AC lives here, and the fam.
On the next episode of You Never Get Out.
Well, Swam moved away for a year, but we found a new
Swam. You're still fucking on the show. We're still waiting.
Back. That's the brother, man. Like that's
the homie, man. That's the homie.
That's still this man forever in my heart and in my home.
How that equation looks like on paper is completely amazing. And if anyone was able to solve that equation and make that work, you're the guy, man. Real quick before
wait, hold on.
Okay.
So something my homie AC says is like, man, you're complaining a lot, but you're broke. And I love it. I embrace that, because we're so afraid of the talk of money. We think that it goes against the ethos of progression, and we've been stained by past conversations of purism, which are very dangerous. And we think that discussing the pursuit of money is synonymous with selling out and all these. It's bullshit.
Both things can be true, just like.
Yeah, they're not on the same scale. You don't move away from money to get more real.
Right. If you make it either or, then we all lose.
People think it's on the same scale. People think like, oh, money's over here. And
right. You can't make it either or.
I gotta move away from money to be more authentic. Not on the same scale, homie. Not at all. That's crazy talk. So I'm at a point in my life where I'm like, yeah, let's get that money. Let's get that money. Like, let's really talk about it, because I've been privy to conversations like this for over 20 years. And I see where they go. They can go far, but they go nowhere important without money. Right? It takes value. It takes movement. And how else are you going to, manufacture that movement without money? It would have to be very organic and take a long time in order for it to not, that's what New York had. And even New York had a lot of money, but New York had a very organic movement as a result of lack of money and certain things. And just like the movement that was dictated by the pace of New York, and it took years to solidify that platform to have you be playing New York every time, no matter what city you're in. Right. If you want to get that here, somebody that has interest in that has got to put money into it.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. No, that is perfectly on the money. No pun intended.
I love how AC says, "Yeah, you're complaining, but you're broke. You sound so broke right now." Because let's just talk that. Like, let's talk actual moves.
Right. Yeah. But there is power in people. There is power in ideas. There's power to changing the narrative. I know when I came back and I said, this is what I was going to do, and this is how I was going to do it. I was met with a lot of resistance because nobody, since I was in Kansas City, nobody was talking, not even having the common fucking sense.
The resistance was them projecting. That's it.
Right. And like I said, scratch that. Rewind. What you said earlier about communication. It's all how it's presented. Because if for the longest, everything has been based on get behind these people or that or this person or that shit. And it hasn't been done as a collective. Once again, there's all kinds of biases on why not to help, why not to get behind someone. Maybe you don't know them. Maybe they don't live on your fucking side of town. Maybe they don't do what you do. Maybe you only feel right with the people that do the things that you do. And we all have these biases. But when you look at business models in cities that are doing great stuff, and i.e. California, because California, since the days of K-Day, continue that if you go out to California and you're going to hear not only the new people, you're going to not only see the presence of the new people, which is obvious, but you're also going to hear the culture of all of that culture, whereas from San Diego, LA, Oakland, you're going to hear them and you're going to hear representation because once again, garnering support from people without representation of your own is taxation without representation. You cannot ask people.
It's been years in the making too. It's been so worked at. If you take an example like Memphis, for example, and what I Make Mad Beats is doing, with the Unapologetic crew, right? Like that's a perfect example of how extreme organization and work can actually prove fruitful, right? But how many I Make Mad Beats are there out there? How many Unapologetics are there out there? I know
we can't go on what we don't have. We just have to start from what we do have. And
I'm just saying, I know them.
Yeah.
And that's something that does work. Yeah. Someone did that here, it could work too. If they made it.
It's not easy. And we're not even framing.
Just thinking about I'm an artist.
Right.
Why not me? Well, because you're just another artist.
And Jay-Z always coined the phrase, "We don't believe you. You need more people." And this is what we need as a city. Until we, as a we need more people to support the idea of the city versus one or two people. And as a collective, demand that we're represented fully. Whether it's on radio, whether it's on media, there should be some outlet in which they're playing. And shout out to the 69 Boys. My man, he was able to explain this crazy. There's no reason why in hell you cannot play, that you're not playing a Magic Mike record once a day in a city in which he did some of the biggest stuff to ever happen in the city. There's no reason. There's no reason in hell why one record. We're not even asking for 12. We're saying one and one time. There's no reason why we live in a city in which you can't hear a Magic Mike record one time in some form of media out
In
here.
his own city.
In his own city. I don't care how many explanations are given.
Right.
That there is a complete disconnect with the media and the city in which the media profits off of. You know, if they're profiting off the city, no one has a problem with that. Nobody's against profits. We're against taxation without representation. If you're going to get the money, please support the city and play not only the legends, but play the new artists. Play everyone. Give everyone an open voice in the city and watch how people are more connected to what you're trying to give instead of, you know, having no loyalty, if you will. The next new shiny object comes out, people are gone, you know. But with that said, I want to go into a special version with you called the Quick Mix. And basically, we're going to be asking a series of questions. We want honest answers. Let's go.
Man throwing down.
Give it to them. Give it to them.
All right. First name of the album, Soliloquy of Sound. What is the first name of the album?
There's so many. For Student Council, Running from Precedence.
Boom. Record label.
Which one?
First album.
Oh, first album? No label. And then it got picked up by Nonsense.
Boom. Hardest beat you ever did on the MPC 2000. How many discs did it require?
On the 2000 or 2000 XL?
I'll go 2000 because that was straight. You know, that you had the SCSI on it, but
Man. Okay, so you're talking floppies.
Floppies, my brother.
Probably
How many
6.
discs?
Maybe 6.
6 floppies. Okay.
I don't remember.
Favorite EQ plugin?
For what job?
Just one of your go-to EQs that
Desert
you pull
Island.
that out with a hat.
Desert Island. I probably have to go with a Fab Filter.
Fab Filter. Shout out to Fab Filter. Favorite compressor?
Let's go with the Fairchild.
Wow. Shout out to the Fairchild, man. That thing got a frequency and a crunch on it that's second to none. Shout out to that Fairchild.
Yeah, I call it than anything.
Favorite delay?
Oh, just the stock one. Echo Boy. Let's say Echo Boy if you want to get fancy.
Okay. Favorite reverb?
I kind of find myself using the Lexicon 240L a lot.
Shout out to Lexicon. If you've heard their reverbs, it's kind of difficult to screw up some boiling water. Like, I mean, you really got to go out your way to screw up some boiling water. And that's what the Lexicon is. That's just boiling water.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Favorite effect? And you don't have to necessarily give away the name or the company, but just give the effect away. What is your favorite effect that no one would think you would be using, but you use as a effect on your on a chain, if you will?
I mean, there's nothing really special going on in the effect world. I got so many little tricks though that I could.
Yeah. We'll call the effect the trick. What's your favorite trick?
Favorite trick. All right. So just in Ableton, I like to use an auto filter on hi-hats to make it go.
Wow. What was the toughest thing that you faced in Ableton? This goes out to all my Ableton users on the check-in right now. What was the hardest thing, if there was anything hard for you? What was the hardest thing that
My ego? Because for so many years I was the guy who was playing 3 MPCs. I kind of got it caught in my head, like people were calling me the Jimi Hendrix MPC and stuff, and I'm like, I can't stop being the MPC guy, you know. So like, so many people were like, man, you love Ableton. If you used Ableton, you'd be able to, you know, do so much. And I was just like, yeah, but then if I use Ableton, then people are going to give Ableton credit and not me, you know, like more or less. That's kind of what I was thinking in my head. It was ridiculous. It was dumb. And once I got over that, I was like, oh, just because I have better tools doesn't mean I get lazy. It means I push a further boundary. You know, it means like I get to if the room's bigger, I just get to the end of the room and push that wall. Doesn't matter where how big the room is. I'm always going to push the wall. So I think that was like the hardest thing just to even start using it. Was like, you know, for years people were telling me like, yo, use that. And I was just like, nah, because I wanted to kind of like uphold some sort of purity. And again, purism is dangerous.
Analog or digital?
Digital.
You heard that, Orlando? Let's go. Okay.
I mean, I could qualify that. I love analog, but come on. I'm not trying to buy some tape.
Right. So, and I was just feeding off your purist statement, because for a lot of people, everything has got to be like it was in 1980. And that's cool if you got that or you want to do that, but there should be some sort of openness to what's going on right now.
And let me also add, a standalone MPC is not analog. Like I encounter this a lot. Like used to use those analog MPCs. There was never an analog MPC. They're always digital. It's just because you use it. Then this is where I was ridiculous too. I was afraid to have a computer on stage because I thought that everyone would think the computer's doing the work and not me. But the MPC's got a computer in it, just a shittier. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a crappier computer inside the machine.
Right.
So like a lot of those conversations aren't even well informed to begin with.
Talk your shit, Divinci. We're
at a point now where it's like, yeah, give me the digital version of the analog because I like analog sound, but at the same time, I travel, homie. I'm not trying to bring all that with me. I'm a minimalist. I want my laptop, my push, and that's it. You know? So yeah, give me convenience because I want flow. I like these, by the way. Keep going.
Yes. If everything was burning down and you had to take 3 plugins with you, not including the ones you just said, what would they be and why?
The ones I said. If I had to take 3 plugins with me, I'm going to cheat and say the audio effect rack that I use for my vocals, which contains a lot of plugins, in that preset. So that one. I'll take, and these are just like mixing effects, right? Not like
just right.
Not like instruments, not like
no.
Okay,
we didn't get to that yet, buddy.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I like Soothe. I think that's really dope. Fantastic plugin. And I didn't mention this, but the Pultec.
Oh yes. Mm-hmm. Yes, you can't lose with the Pultec.
No.
Favorite BI that you've come across that is a Swiss Army knife of sorts?
Oh, I use Omnisphere on damn near every track. Omnisphere.
Wow. You heard that? You heard that, people? Omnisphere is the Swiss Army knife
Yeah.
the Divinci.
Yeah.
Now, do you find that Omnisphere is very CPU intensive or not? Not so much.
If I showed you, I could share it with you. I could show you how many Omnispheres I have in my live set. I have about 8 tracks of like instruments that have effects, like instrument racks on them, and each instrument rack has about 7 to 9 Omnispheres on each of them. So,
like I said, he's from Jupiter. Do not pay attention to what you're talking about.
but they're not playing at the same time. Omnisphere is CPU intensive, but like if you're only using one at a time, you know.
Pro Tools
Fuck Pro Tools.
or Ableton?
Fuck Pro Tools.
Oh, you heard it here first. The man
I'll probably body
fuck
anybody listening in Pro Tools. I will probably body anybody in Pro Tools right now, even though I currently don't own it, you know, because I systematically like worked it off of my machine. The only reason I ever have it over the last few years is when I was like working with Miss Hill on something or something like that. And I had to share sessions with them. I'd be like, you got to renew my subscription because I don't like it anymore. Like, you know, I just don't like the politics of the company, and that always plays a big part in the way that I deal with gear. I'm very good in Pro Tools. I think it's fantastic for audio editing. I'm super fast. I could probably win contests with that thing, but that aside, Ableton all day, baby.
12-bit or 32-bit?
32. Who's doing?
Wow.
12? Wow.
Let's go.
You're not going to do anything with 12 bits. Are you going to get hired if you're capped out at 12 bits? You can always go back. You can always put a little redux on that. You know, 32,
well,
48.
Right now, they're trying to relive the SB12 days. They just remade that new SB1200, and you know, and they're trying. You know, even the XL. I got the XL. They got this, you know, little plug-in that makes it go supposedly to 12. But you know, what do you think about to your point, 32-bit is where you want to be, correct?
It's just more I can do more actual work with it. Right. Like more professional work. Right. You know what I mean? Like I can there's so many ways for you to create vibe. You know, look, you know, a lot of these conversations are like not relevant anymore, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Let's keep this quick mix going. We quick
these conversations. I got
3,000 or 2,500. And notice I didn't call out your MPCs.
Okay. MPC, what's the question? Like if
the 3,000 or the 2,500?
Studio or stage, homie?
Stage. If that was your only selections.
2,500 stage
2,500. Yes. That's a beast, by the way, too.
Yeah.
Last question of the night.
Man, I love these.
I mean, as far as the quick mix is concerned, last question is, if you have to record in a studio in which is not the way your setting is, and what would be one of the first thing you did as a producer or artist to make this session work in your favor? If the entire environment wasn't in your favor, meaning you didn't have all your tools, what would be the first thing that you do to kind of bring it back to your side? Go.
Find the strongest guy in the room and bitch slap him.
Yes! Talk your shit, Divinci. Talk your shit. I love it, man. I love it, bro. This is my dude, man. You're watching the Soul Show with my man, Divinci. Slap the bitch. And the biggest dude in the room just slapped the bitch out of that motherfucker. Just slapped the whole female out of that motherfucker.
No, I didn't
my
say,
man, bro. I'm so honored
I
to
didn't
have
say anything
you.
about women or men. I just said bitch slap him.
Well,
Be canceled.
yeah, that too. Okay. But anyway, now I want to go to my favorite segment of tonight, and that is Top 5 Dead or Alive. You, as a producer, you've had to have been inspired by one or two people out there. Now, Top 5 Dead or Alive producers, Divinci, go.
Top 5.
Top 5 Dead or Alive.
Any producer, like any genre?
Hey, bruh, it's your fucking list. If you want to say whoever is your inspiration, do it.
Top 5.
Top 5 Dead or Alive.
My favorite producer is Timbaland.
Timbo, let's go. VA sounds nice. Let's go.
Dilla, of course, is on that list. Of course.
Dilla, let's go.
He might be tied for first. Damn, man. I mean, Dre's got to be on that just because, sonically, at the very least.
Sonically, he's an alien from the planet SSSL.
There you go.
Soul Aquarians, man. Bro, I haven't heard that one. So shout out to you on that. Next.
You know Soul Aquarians, though? Soul Aquarians is the super.
No, I know who they are.
Okay,
I have yet to hear any producer say that was in their top 5. So that's dope. Continue.
And let's pick a recent one. Monty Booker's killing. Monty Booker's
Monty Booker. Okay. Now, you produced MCs. You also rap. Rapped. So I have to ask you, top 5 MCs, dead or alive, go.
Swam's on that list.
Swamp Burger, big up to Orlando, Chi-Town, Swamp Burger. Let's go.
This is tough. I just want to name all the people I work with. Damn.
If that's your list, that's your list.
Swan's on that list. Miss Hill's on that list.
Yes. L Boogie, let's go.
Let's talk about J Live, because J Live really dope.
Oh wow.
I mean, almost him and Stage tie for an MC that really speaks to me in a way that's it's like reading a book. It's fantastic.
Wow. Shout out to J Live. Let's go.
So that's Sage and Jay. There's so many, dude. These lists they're always hard because
they're arbitrary.
They're so broad.
They're working document
flavor. If you talk about a certain flavor for a particular reason, then the conversation becomes a lot more.
It's all based on what you feel it is to you.
It's really based on who comes off the top of my head right now.
Right. You're good, brother.
Say Micah 9.
Wow. Nice. Let's go. Man. Top 5 dead or alive, man. I mean, I think that's completely amazing, my brother. You gave people insight to your mind, which is literally a paradox woven into a soliloquy of sound. I love my inventors. I love my people that always push the envelope and continue to expand and grow. You're one of those people, man. I'm so honored that you came on the show. I'm so honored that I've got my history with you and been able to perform and watch you in action. If anything, I want to be able to say to Orlando is if you don't know about Divinci and the Soliloquy of Sound, please go get their material. It is a walking or living document of Orlando hip hop history. It needs to be available for all people. I'm talking about the BVLs. I'm talking about the East Sides. I'm talking about Crime Hills. everybody needs to be put on to what you guys have contributed to this place we call home. And I'm just like I said, when I think of the sound of Orlando, there's no fucking way in hell I cannot include you guys into that sound of Orlando, brother. And that's just what that is.
Immense appreciation, man. I really appreciate you. Thank you so much. You were right there alongside, right next to us for most of that time, man. Whether physically or in spirit, and I appreciate you a lot. Thanks for having me on here. If anyone wants to stay connected with me, you can go on Instagram at Divinci, Divinci. You can check out my creative wellness platform, which is studiosensei.com. I have a Discord server at studiosensei.com/dojo. You can come join and be part of like conversations that are happening on a daily basis.
And does Soliloquy of Sound or yourself have any new music out in which people can dial into?
There might be music that's new to them. We haven't, we're all working on so many different projects simultaneously that, like, the Soliloquist project doesn't have anything in the last couple of years, but there was like a single that was put out a couple of years ago that people might not have heard, and I urge people to re-listen to The Fourth Wall if they haven't heard that, both versions of that, part one and two.
Yes.
And the whole listener's trilogy. You can go to Solilla.com, SOLILLA, and also Solilla.bandcamp.com. Get the whole catalog there, as well as all the streaming places and things like that. There's a lot to discover. There's a lot we put a lot for people to dig into. So,
well, like I said, I'm honored to be able to call you a friend. I've known you for over 20 years, and you keep impressing the fuck out of me, and I think that's freaking awesome. Smack Swanberger in the head and tell his punk ass to come on the show. Stop fronting. We love you. We want to tell your story too, motherfucker. And like I said, I mean, I say that all affectionately because, like I said, y'all have been not only an inspiration, but and a rival of sorts. Steel sharpens steel. You always made us want to be better, and I think that should be a good thing when it comes to growing up around people. They should make you better, and I think you brought that out of us, and I hope I brought that out of you guys. And this is the story of our city, and I know however long I'm down here, man, I just want to make my last living testament, the story of all these great people that I met while I was alive. And I think that's, you're one of them. And I just think that's a beautiful thing. And Orlando is better that you came down here and did showed your motherfucking ass. We're better for that. And I thank you. And
that's blessed work you're participating in too. I appreciate you doing that, man. Thank you.
And I appreciate that too, bro. And yeah, man, just continue doing your thing. You're always welcome on the show. Your family, and we love you. Continue doing your thing, brother. And hey, bro, love you, man.
Love you too.
All right, my brother. Give it up for Divinci on the show. I knew we were going 2 hours because I can't ask this dude one question. Thank God for that, man. Yes. Man, so honored to have you on the show, man. Thank you, brother. Salute. Hey, you know what time it is, man. We're talking to our family, our extended family. It's all about our city. You know I'm crazy. You know I don't care. I don't care about the rules. There's no damn rules. Why? Because this is our city, and we're going to tell the whole damn story. If you're watching this right now, shout outs to you. Shout outs to everybody that tuned in tonight. Shout out to my man Rick. Shout out to Jesse Jazz. Shout out to what is this? Dana. Shout out to Dana. Shout out to my man Seth One on the check-in, man. Yo, Sanayasha, I'm probably butchering your name. If so, I apologize. I didn't mean to do that. I didn't even do it. All right. Love all of you guys, man. This week is going to be a very special week. We're ending off, we ended off Capricorn season. Now we're going into Aquarius. Shout out to all my Aquarius out there, man. If you're loving the show, please go and support our new YouTube channel. The link is on the page. And just, man, we're doing this for our city. Shout out to all my sponsors tonight, man. Tom Sons. If you don't know about the mask that he is developing right now, straight up fashion, straight up dope stuff. It's got its own original design. If you gotta wear a mask, go to TomSons.com. And shout out to my man, Jesse Jazz, 5stargraphics.com. Need printing? Go check this boy out. He will hook you up. You got tax services. You need to advertise it. Go hit my man, Jesse Jazz. He's not only a legend, he's a damn genius. Now, we will be back tomorrow at 7 o'clock at our regularly scheduled hour. We love y'all. We think y'all are dope. We are congratulating you guys for tuning in to what we're doing. I'm coming from an honest perspective. I don't know what the hell this looks like. I don't know what in the end this might be. But all I want to do is tell our story and tell our story to the people then. So bless up. Shout out to everybody out there. Shout out to my man, Ricky Rick. We love you. See you tomorrow.
Live on stage, the sound. Orlando! So, is they ready? Yes. The sound. Orlando!